Okay, part 2 of the Senate hearing for nutjob podcaster conspiracy theorist Kash Patel, who is running the Federal Bureau of Investigation for the United States of America. He got grilled by senators, both Democratic and Republican. I talked about a number of those issues in part 1, but in this video, I specifically want to focus on the things he said about the Epstein Files, because they were, to put it mildly, as my 14-year-old would say, sus. Was questioned by Senator Kennedy, a Republican from Louisiana, about the Epstein Files, and you really, really want to hear what he had to say.
I want to ask you about the Epstein Files. Have you seen the Epstein Files?
I have not reviewed the entirety of it myself, but a good amount.
You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And the information we have, again, is limited.
So the answer is no one?
For the information that we have.
In the files?
In the case file.
Did you notice that clarification there then in the case file? In what case file? What do you mean by case file, podcaster Patel? Here again, I think we are seeing an example of how a kakistocracy is going to come back and bite Trump in the butt. He has prioritized hiring people who are loyal to him. Loyalty has been put above all else, definitely above any qualification to run the department that they are overseeing. And Kash Patel is a prime example. He's a conspiracy theorist who has been talking about the Epstein Files for years. He has been demanding that the Epstein Files be released because he thought it was going to be all Democrats on the list. He thought the client list was going to be Bill and Hillary Clinton and some Democratic celebrities from Hollywood and some Democratic billionaires funding Democratic candidates. It never occurred to him that there might be Republicans on that list. And he's been going on about this for years. And remember, after Pam Bondi said she was not going to release the Epstein Files, there was nothing to see here, nothing to see. After months and months of saying, the files are on my desk, Kash Patel threatened to quit. And then there was one weekend of, I don't know what kind of conversations happened. And he's like, never mind, I'm going to keep my job after all. But again, careful wording here by Kash Patel to say, yes, in the case files, there isn't anything. I don't know. That weird distinction to me matters. He is tiptoeing around something here. And we already know from tons of other information, and including from Epstein victims themselves, that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell did not themselves assault and abuse over 1,000 women and girls. We know from Department of Justice filings that there are more than 1,000 victims. We know from the victims themselves, including Virginia Giuffre, who was victimized by Prince Andrew, a member of the royal family, and the royal family had to settle with her for millions of dollars, that it wasn't just Jeffrey and Ghislaine. And yet we have Kash Patel asserting today that it was, at least in the case file. Now, this directly contradicts what Pam Bondi said back in March. Kash Patel wants us to believe that there is no client list, but in March, Pam Bondi on Fox News said this.
DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president for all of these agencies.
She was specifically asked about a client list, and she said it was on her desk. Now, after this interview in March, we know that in May, the FBI found Donald Trump's name all over the Epstein files, and they took, I don't know how many hundreds of FBI agents took their little Sharpies and had to redact his name from the entire thing. And then after that, we know that Pam Bondi met with Donald Trump and was like, hey, my dude, your name's all up in here. Yeah. And then less than 2 weeks later, Pam Bondi said, well, nothing to see here. Case closed. We don't have any more information. There's nothing important to release. We're done here. They moved Ghislaine Maxwell from a higher security prison to a minimum security prison in Texas. And they tried to sweep this thing under the rug. And then Donald Trump began calling it a hoax. After he ran on releasing the Epstein Files, suddenly, he started calling it a hoax. He called his own supporters stupid for wanting to have it released. And Trump keeps asking everybody, can't we just forget about this? Can't we just move on? No, we will not be forgetting because the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and all of his clients deserve justice. There are members of Congress, including Representative Melanie Stansbury from New Mexico, who are determined to get justice. They are meeting with victims. We know victims are speaking out. They are creating their own client list. We had a press conference less than 2 weeks ago where Epstein's victims stood up and said they are putting together their own list. They say that there's a list. Are we not supposed to believe victims? I also think it is important to remind everybody here that my Senator, Ron Wyden, spent more than 3 years during the Biden administration investigating Jeffrey Epstein's financial transactions. And in March of this year, he delivered a file with information to Pam Bondi, and she's done fuck all with it.
Now, somewhere in the Treasury Department, Mr. President, locked away in a cabinet drawer, is a big Epstein file that's full of actionable information. Follow the money details about his financing and operations that await investigation. Last year, the Biden administration allowed our investigators to look at portions of the file. We did that at the Treasury building. Here is what it says. Treasury's Epstein file details, Mr. President, 4,725 wire transfers. Let me repeat that. 4,725 wire transfers, adding up to nearly $1.1 billion flowing in and out of just one of Mr. Epstein's bank accounts. If you ask me, that is more than 4,000 potential lines of investigation right there. Hundreds of millions.
Really quickly here, just to clarify, when I first talked about this issue, I had a bunch of people in my comments say, well, why doesn't Senator Wyden just release all of this financial transaction data to the American people if Pam Bondi won't? I want to make it really clear here that that information, as far as I understand it, that's under lock and key. They weren't allowed to take copies of it. They were allowed to view those documents in a SCIF. They weren't allowed to take their phones in, make photocopies. They were allowed pencil and paper, and they were allowed to take notes. That's pretty typical for highly classified information, sensitive financial information viewed in a SCIF. You have to get clearance to even look at it, and then you definitely can't take photos, and you definitely can't make copies. But Pam Bondi can, Donald Trump can, and not only are they suppressing the release of that information, they are refusing to investigate more than 4,000 leads. Was Jeffrey Epstein blackmailing people? Was this a shakedown? Were they paying him to stay quiet about the fact that they were clients of his? I really hope it's eating Kash Patel up inside. He had to decide whether his years-long crusade to release the Epstein Files was going to be the priority or loyalty to Daddy Donald. And he chose loyalty, but he knows that there is more to the Epstein Files than what is being said and released by the federal government. He fucking knows it, and now he's got to, lie to the Senate about it? Lie to himself? I hope that keeps him up at night. I hope that's real hard for him. This man is the director of the FBI, so don't tell me he hasn't seen that information. This is a man who, in a normal situation, would not get anywhere near a security clearance, but now he is running the FBI, and he's bungling everything. It's not just the Epstein Files. It's not just the handling of the investigation around Charlie Kirk's shooter. It's not just the firing of God knows how many FBI agents. He said in his interview it would take in front of the Senate that it would take 14 years to rehire all of the people that he fired. He's rendering the FBI non-functional. To what? Prove his loyalty to Donald Trump? He's sending qualified agents to go do low-level immigration enforcement, and they're abandoning really important investigations. He's disassembled entire teams. This is a man who is completely unqualified. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a big embarrassment. The longer he's in that position, the more he's going to mangle things and the worse he's going to make Trump look. There is a point at which running a kakistocracy, choosing people based on their loyalty and their complete incompetence and their lack of qualification is going to come back and bite Donald Trump in the butt. And I think that Kash Patel's answers about the Epstein Files today, those are not going to satisfy anybody. They're not going to satisfy Republicans or Democrats in Congress. They're not going to satisfy the American people, definitely not MAGA. We're not going to be quiet about the Epstein Files. They're not a hoax. This case is not a hoax, no matter what Donald Trump tries to tell us. And nobody believes Kash Patel when he says there's no client list. Fucking please. Whatever tiny shred of nut job conspiracy theory credibility you had, Kash, completely went out the window with your answer today. You said what Donald Trump wanted, but it's going to come at great cost to you, I think. I think Cory Booker's not wrong when he says Kash Patel is not going to be in that position much longer.